Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fallout Roundtable. This is a place where diverse individuals discuss various topics from the Fallout universe. Join us, the conversation has already started. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Fallout Roundtable. I'm your host today, Patrick Conway, also known as Jaxus. I don't know what I was about to say, but I was going to say something else. Anyway,
yeah, we know your real name. Way to go.
No. They're going to find me. Anyway, real quick, if you guys want to check us out on Twitter or on YouTube or any of the other kind of stuff, you want to go to @FalloutRTB. And if you want to send us an email, you can go to fallout@rtb@gmail.com.
Fallout at RTB. Fallout
RTB.
Yeah. Follow
You know what?
RTB
They're
at
smart enough.
gmail.com.
Our audience is real clever. They can figure that one out.
Are you sure?
I know they got this one.
Okay. All right.
One of these days, you guys will let me do the openings because I set up the socials.
Okay, you know what,
I know
Sassy?
what
We're gonna start over. Do it.
Wait, hold on. Rewind. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, I resent that. I never said that.
Oh well,
Anyway. Not in that way. It just sounded like that because it was backwards. You know, like Freddy is the devil.
Sure,
So
yeah, devil.
Ready, back? Okay.
All right, Sassy. All ears on you.
I'm going socials. All right. So send us a DM or send us a tweet at FalloutRTB on Twitter. Send me an email, falloutrtb@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube. We're Fallout Roundtable, or pretty much anywhere else. You can find us on Discord, either our own channel, Fallout Roundtable, or you can find us on the Robots Radio Discord channel.
She's not immune. All right, cool.
You almost did it.
Almost had it.
Well, see, now that we just did like 2 minutes, I'm not cutting any of that shit. It's all staying.
It's the Robots Radio blah 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 thing.
Now I'm interested in hearing, for those listening to this show, how do you think Sassy did? Let us know by email. FalloutRTB@gmail.com.
I think she did just fine. She does most of it anyway.
I'm the only one that reads them, so I'm probably just going to tell it. Everybody says I'm awesome, and I should always do it.
Delete.
Anybody who hates it, it's like I never saw that.
Never saw you.
Must have gone to the junk folder.
Anyway, folks. So today's topic is going to be all things Brotherhood of Steel. We've been doing some all things I know we did a Meet the Maxons episode that to me was like, I went back and listened to it, guys. Yeah, I know it was cringe. All right, I probably read half of the wiki that day. But I wanted to make sure I wanted to make sure everybody understood. No, because I did ad lib. So but I wanted to make sure everybody understood who the Maxons were, and the point was the Maxons, not so much the Brotherhood of Steel. This time, I will do a real quick thing to let everybody who does not know who the heck the Brotherhood of Steel is or who Roger Maxon is. I'll be amazed if there's people that don't know who they are, and this is the first episode that they ever chose to listen to. But for sake of argument, I'm going to go ahead and spill it out. Okay, so Roger Maxon served in the Army during the Resource Wars. At one point, he also fought alongside somebody known as Taggarty. Taggarty was the Brotherhood of Steel leader in Fallout 76 or in Appalachia. And that branch, those two were kind of combined together at one point. In 2076, West Tech had made some breakthroughs with the what we now call the FEV virus, but back then was called the Pan Immunity Varian Project. Did I say Varian properly? Is that the right way you say it? I don't know.
I think it's a Viron.
Viron? Okay. I don't know words. Anyway, so the Army sent Maxon and his CO, Colonel Robert Spindell, to secure the location to keep them safe from espionage because of all the stuff going on with China and everything going on at the time. The project, renamed FEV, Forced Evolutionary Virus, was moved in January 7th, 2077 to Mariposa Base. Maxon and his crew were not aware of the human experimentation that was going on at all. They had no clue. They just knew that they were protecting something. On October 10th, 2077, they discovered the horrors that were going on in the base, and Colonel Spindell locked himself up in an office and committed hara-kiri. See you later. Didn't want to play anymore. And so Maxon took control of the base, and he once he found out what was going on, he was so disgusted and didn't know, like, he actually at one point stopped somebody from killing a scientist. And then it turns out he ended up interrogating all the scientists just to turn around and execute them all, which I found ironic. Anyway, he then attempted to make contact with the army after finding out that the army was basically the ones who set it all up, them and Vault Tech. And he mutinied against the army. And you really don't do that because usually the army comes and kill you. But luckily for Mr. Maxon, the same time he was doing that, all of a sudden they decided they wanted to blow up the entire world, and we had a bomb go off and it destroyed everything. So that was October 28th that the bombs went off,
23rd.
Right? 23rd.
23rd.
Oh, wait.
Man, it's a sacred holiday. We all know this.
Jump ahead. Sorry. Jump ahead. Maxon
Bombs
on the
I
20.
thought they went off on the 22nd.
No. My math was screwed up because I typed on October 27th, 4 days after the bombs. Ding. Anyway, were dropped, packed up, and they moved the rebels to the Lost Hills government bunker in the south. Sometime later in the proclamation to his men, Maxon declared that the United States had failed to protect the citizens and serve their own needs during the years leading to the war. I don't know why I couldn't get those words out of my mouth. And stated that he needed to create a new order to preserve civilization, and poof, Brotherhood of Steel. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Okay, now.
And that's how you make a baby Brotherhood of Steel.
Yes.
With
a small little incubator. It's a basement. I could have swore he was just drinking out of a baby bottle the way he did that.
He probably was. There's probably a few of them around his house. It's handy.
Okay, so now you got a quick overview. If you guys need to know more about the Brotherhood of Steel, probably the better place to go would be the Lorecast. The Fallout Lorecast does a pretty good breakdown of what happened with Roger Maxon and all that stuff. And yeah, Robots does it way better.
Or play the games.
Oh, yeah, that might do it. Well, if you play the games, you got to like pay a lot of attention.
Listen. If anyone is listening to this show, they've probably played the games.
No,
I'm just saying.
Well, they probably played the games, but you really got to read the terminal entries and listen to the holotape. So you could just read the Fallout Wiki too, because they do a really good job of representing all that stuff. They
Am I the only person that hears the word
wiki
wiki and I think of like somebody scratching on a turntable? Wiki.
Yes, a wiki. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So
fine. Fallout Wikipedia. Is that better?
Yeah. So like, now where did I put my questions? I have questions. I know I put them somewhere.
Oh, you have questions.
Yeah. Well. So we got the origin, right? And so one of the questions I was wondering about is like, and I did ask when we were offline. I'm having trouble remembering when they had become so adamant about hoarding technology as opposed to preserving it for the future. And you were saying something about how they were, how Maxon actually decided that further on down the road. How long ago?
Well,
like how much down the road did he decide that? Because I thought it was like this. From what I could tell, it was like the third generation where they just started losing their minds and started like hoarding everything.
It was Roger Maxon who thought he started collecting it because he thought that we were losing it. He was afraid that it was going to be lost to all humanity, so he started saving it. Now, there's a fine line between saving and preserving and hoarding. So, like, where it actually became hoarding and keeping it from other people, that's hard to say. I was always under the impression that they had come about kind of in a they had stopped letting people have access to it because they were afraid that history was going to repeat itself. We were just going to start making all of our same mistakes, and they didn't trust people to have access to the technology that had gotten us to the place that we were at in 2077.
So
now I don't know exactly when that came about, but Roger started it.
Yeah. Well, I think if you read the terminal entries in Fallout 76 and you hear the communications between Taggarty and Maxim and Lost Hills, then
Right.
follow that up with the Brotherhood of Steel quest line, you find out that there is a schism going on actually back at Lost Hills. That
Right.
Maxim is following his original orders of like you said, preservation of technology.
Mhm.
You know, he wants to
Mhm.
preserve it because he wants to try to help the people. But
Yeah.
there's some of the other elders who believe that, and I think this is where you start seeing kind of that divide develop in the
Right.
Brotherhood of Steel, where they're saying, wow, this technology is incredibly dangerous. We need to stop other people from using it. So at least for the early years, I think that was more like a backroom discussion where they were saying, hey, we're going to get our hands on all of this technology. You know, you had some people saying, yeah, maybe we should actually go out there and find the stuff that people are using and grab it and bring it back, as opposed to, I think Maxim just wanted to really kind of go out and like search libraries and archives and things like that. I mean, I think that was before you really got the Brotherhood going out and physically like ripping technology out of people's hands,
Yep.
saying like, hey, that water purifier you guys are using is dangerous tech. We need to preserve that. And
We
then,
need that.
then they take it away. And that's something I think, as we kind of go through the history of the Brotherhood, it's kind of interesting because Bethesda's done a really good job of making them the quote unquote good guys. And I think that you can't go around and be a Fallout fan without, everybody being like, oh, the Brotherhood's so awesome, blah, 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 blah. And then when you actually look at what they're doing over the years, it's like they progressively get worse.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. Because
so,
they're like the good guys gone bad or something. Because Arthur started out as helping people, but then when he decided he needed to preserve technology, like it says in the literature or whatever, he made helping humanity secondary, which you see in that schism that Lawrence talked about when you see the Brotherhood of Steel quest in Fallout 76, because you see that big rift between Shin and Romani, where Shin's like, by the book, we're going to do what Maxim says, and he says this, and Romani's like, we've got people to help, this is what we need to do, and he's like, that's not our mission. And that's their big butting of heads, is because she wants to help the people and he's there to take all the technology and follow what Maxim says to do and report back and blah, blah, blah. And she finally says, forget about it, and cuts off all the communication so she can do what she feels is their mission.
And I think that Taggarty did a little bit of that herself, because she wanted to actually use nuclear bombs at one point, and
he told
Maxim's
her,
like, no, under no circumstances will you be.
He told her not to.
Yeah,
and she says, I feel like this is the only way to rid this area of this problem, but he won't go for it.
Yeah,
and then she ends up dying trying to kill these beasts. So,
and then we ended up nuking everything in sight multiple times
over and over and over,
every hour.
Anyway,
for years,
just so we can bring them out and say pew pew.
Yeah, and now we have parades in that same place. Weird.
I know, fun.
I mean, if you look at the history, so if you kind of look at the history of the games, I don't believe the Brotherhood of Steel shows up in the first Fallout. Does it? Am I forgetting? Like,
I think they're in every Fallout. Aren't they?
I don't. I'm
Actually, yeah, because they now I'm trying to remember exactly where I saw, because they're not in like Necropolis or anything. They're actually in some of the other towns. I thought they were actually, it was more of the mercenaries. Actually, I don't remember seeing any
because I think you just see like a couple of dudes standing around different towns.
Yeah, but I don't
so
think there's
like
a lot of interaction.
faction.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think
they're just like there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really until you get into the later games that they develop. And in fact, I mean, even some of the, kind of, I don't want to call them non-canon, but I mean, some of the games that most people haven't played, like Fallout Tactics or, the actual Brotherhood of Steel game, where they actually do expand the lore. I mean, and you find out that there are multiple chapters of the Brotherhood of Steel, which leads to an interesting discussion of, so Maxim reached out to Taggarty, and that's how she became this chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel in Appalachia. How many other military posts did he reach out to, and how many other chapters did he actually create? Because they don't really discuss it, but I think you could make the argument that based on some of the other games, that there was probably a Brotherhood of Steel in Texas. I think
Chicago.
Chicago. Well, yeah, I mean, we know they were in Chicago. and then of course the one that everybody really knows is the East Coast branch.
Right. Over in DC and Boston. And they should be everywhere, in all reality, because they're former military. So literally he just had to find out what forts were still active at the time of the bombings and, talk to them about what he thinks is going on and see if they're on his side or if they're going to stick to the party line that's probably may or may not be coming from the oil rigs, and see which way they're going to go. Because I think, he took a while to wear down Taggarty to get her to realize that, she was going to follow him and not stick with what she knew to be right as far as what she'd been indoctrinated. This is the Army. And then he's telling her something completely different. It took her a minute to get on board with his ideals and say, yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Well, I certainly want to one of these days. So the vast majority of the U.S. Army was actually in China, which most people seem to forget. Like there was an actual major we were fighting. And look, the Brotherhood shows up. Oh no, I'm in trouble.
Hey, Mr. Brotherhood guy, you should tell us the whole history. You should know.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to, I've come up with some interesting ideas of what that would look like when you have an intermix of Chinese warlords and US generals that become their own little warlords. But I mean, there actually wasn't a whole lot of actual US troops left in the continental United States. I mean, there was the National Guard, but so it kind of makes sense that the Brotherhood would be scattered and there's probably not a whole lot of them. And I think ultimately they would probably all pursue a bit of their own path. They would follow in general the orders to preserve technology, but I'm sure that there are probably some branches that were more along the lines of Romani that they would want to try to help the people around them. But then there's probably also the really militant ones who go out there and are confiscating technology left and right. So I guess a good question would be, did the Brotherhood, was Maxon doing the right thing? Was his vision as it was originally conceived the right thing to do?
And his original vision was preservation.
Yeah.
Well, just basically preservation for the future. Yeah.
Yeah. To preserve. I mean, when you're in Fallout 3 and you're bringing books back. Yeah.
I think
I remember doing those quests with the scribes where you brought books that you found in the wasteland or whatever, and you would bring them to the library and turn them in. I think that kind of stuff was spot on because they were preserving literature. They were preserving manuals and books about science and things like that. And I think that's great because you don't want to lose those things. And we all know books are just going to rot and burn and whatever. And for them to preserve that kind of stuff for the future, they were all putting them on microfiche back at the Pentagon, or forget what it was called now.
The Citadel.
The Citadel. Yeah. So, the Citadel. I think that his original intentions, where he wanted to preserve technology for the future because he didn't want it to be lost over time, was great. I think somewhere down the line, things got a little too control freakish, which that just seems like Maxon in general. He's a very take charge person, so he's type AA plus or whatever. Everything that went on, his ability to make snap decisions and just stand by them. I'm going to clear out these scientists. They're making bad choices, so here's my choice, and I'm going to get rid of them. And then we're going to make a new faction, and we're going to do things this way. He's very take charge. So,
and I think it's very obviously going to. I think it's very finite.
He is. Once he makes a decision, he's standing on it.
Yeah, and I think what it is so you're out there. I mean, if you were to look at it, you're out there with just you and these other factions and raiders and things like that. At some point, you're like, well, who else is going to take control? I need to take control. He's going to have that. Unfortunately, we look at it as a dictatorship as a bad thing, but in some cases, we needed dictatorships. Otherwise, if you look at early Rome with the Republic, when Caesar had taken control of the Republic, it was necessary. Otherwise, they would have crumbled at the point that they were at, because they were dealing with barbarians hitting them from multiple
Yeah.
sides. It's the same thing that he was dealing with here, and you don't have any other like real tangible thing. How are you going to protect the people unless you take it under your own hands and take control?
I mean,
He
you could
would-
argue
that's-
that
and that
them
was
as a
it.
dictatorship makes sense and that the post-war America needs that at that time. But
Right.
I don't think the Brotherhood has anything in place for like, what do they do once they achieve what they want, right? Like once they
Yeah.
have started rebuilding society and they have technology, now what? Right? And they don't
I don't
have, I
think
don't think
they
they have a
thought that
plan.
far.
No,
Yeah, I
exactly.
don't think they thought that far, you know, and it's like, yes, you need that for that time. You need that strong leader who can get everything organized, but then what? Then you start to get back to that.
Well, it kind
more-
of went away from a singular leader and went to the elders, a group of elders. So I mean,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
started
considering
with
how
Maxim,
spaced
yeah.
apart they are, I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
And did the elders really make the decisions, or was it still up to a Maxon or whoever at that point?
Well, I think it was. I mean, it seemed like it was like almost a first among equals. So they
Mhm.
had the elders, and then you had the elder.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it also seemed like if the elders got together and wanted to do something that the main guy didn't want to do, it would get done. It would, he wouldn't necessarily have a whole lot of say in that. And I think that they could, and I think that's one of the reasons why you see these branches, people break off and they do different things.
Yeah.
And I also, so it is interesting. And you see conflict develop when the NCR actually kind of forms, because now you have a legitimate civilian government,
Right.
and the Brotherhood does not know how to deal with them. I mean, that's one of the big things in New Vegas that you find is that the Brotherhood's kind of like, well, they're all stuck in that bunker of theirs and, very vitamin D deficient.
Yeah.
They really just don't understand what their role is at that point. And I think that's where, well, I mean, they're a minor faction in New Vegas. I mean, you can just wipe them out if you want. It's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it shows that, again, you're right, that they've kind of lost their way, that in the face of a return of civilization, where does the Brotherhood fit? And I think the answer is they actually don't. They're more of a hindrance to the rebuilding of civilization than they are helping it.
I think that they were like helping at the beginning, but as time goes on, it seems to me like the NCR actually was more likely than the Brotherhood of Steel at that point to be a viable government, as it goes on, even though they had their, quirks of being slightly corrupted here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing was
Government.
for the Brotherhood of Steel to be that faction, they would have needed strong leadership, and they would have needed a plan, utilization, and they would need a diplomat, somebody that can actually sit down and have conversations, get some people at the table, so to speak.
Ideally speaking, I feel like the Brotherhood of Steel would come into an area, kind of secure it, get all the technology, wipe out all the dangerous threats, and then hand over governing authority to the NCR as they move to another area. I feel like that would be an optimal way to do it, but I don't think they're willing to let go of that control.
And that's just it. I feel like Maxon at that point was too into his own head, or like his own plan, or like, this is what I'm doing. They
were very internalized, and it happened to be because was it Max?
Probably his early experience, right?
Well, it was
told him not to trust anybody.
Well, it wasn't Roger Maxon that really got them that far in. It was one of the sons was highly introverted.
John or something? Was it John?
He was a highly introverted element. And once he became part of the faction, that's when they closed off. They wouldn't take in any new members from, outside of their group and that kind of stuff. I don't remember exactly where that was. I had it all down. I just lost it. But there was one of the groups, one of the one of the Maxons down the road, one of the next generations. He was a high introvert, and I believe it was Maxon or Roger Maxon's son that was the high introvert. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure it was him. It's either him or the generation right after him, but I think the generation after him or that one there was killed almost immediately. I can't remember which one of the two. Darn it. But he was killed. Yeah.
But I mean, the Brotherhood was, for for what they were, I could make the argument that they were a technocracy / religious order, because that's really what they ended up turning into. This idea of almost a medieval, like the Knights Templar, I think is probably a great example of kind of what they became. Yeah,
there's basically like an Inquisition or a Holy Crusade. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not a coincidence that they're called Knights and Paladins, I would imagine.
And scribes and squires.
Right.
I mean, that was like the whole thing that he adopted. And it was because that kind of structure is simple. It doesn't require a whole lot of, it's not like you have a whole military hierarchy. It's like, nope, you got knights, you got squires, you got scribes. And then at the top, you got, paladins, elders. Yeah, paladins and elders. That's pretty much it. But they were able to, they did actually have manufacturing facilities. Like they were able to build a fleet of airships, and that's how Lions got across the country. They built this expeditionary force, which was pretty darn big. I mean, for the time, you had several of the airships that crashed in Chicago, which again, that's kind of my little pet project, is what happened in Chicago. I can't believe they haven't made a game about it yet. But then Lions cleared out the pit. So that's where that's where they cleared out that whole area. And then they ended up at the Citadel. And Lions was a significantly different elder than what had come before. He was actually probably much closer to what Roger Maxon actually wanted, and he was there to preserve technology, but he was doing it because he wanted to help the people that were there. And of course, what happens? You get this immediate schism, some percentage, 15, 20% of the Brotherhood at that point then break off and they become the outcasts. And because they wanted to follow the original, or they were going back to this whole, boy, you're being way too free with this technology. We need to keep this all for himself. And that, I think, is where that Lions is what made the Brotherhood the good guys. Because I think you can make the,
I would go with that, especially since he was raising a Maxon himself. Which the ironic twist that comes up. Real quick, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And after that, we're going to get into a little more speculatory conversation about the Brotherhood of Steel. Okay. Ever wanted to be a content creator but had no clue where to begin? Come join me as I sit down with content creators that have already faced the challenges you're up against, as they discuss the tips and tricks that help them be successful. Here on The Content Creator's Guide, available wherever podcasts can be found.
I will eat commies.
Welcome back, everybody. I guess he wants to eat commies or something like that.
Yes.
We were just we never stopped talking. We couldn't help ourselves.
Yeah,
I hope you guys enjoyed the
Prime
commercial break real quick, but we're back and we're going to get back into some speculatory talk. And we were just talking about like the DC and the Brotherhood of Steel not having a whole, like they're there with Three Dog and they're in that area there, and we got kind of the DLC stuff we keep talking about too. We're like adding stuff in, but their presence wasn't really well felt in Fallout 3. And actually, I think the Enclave had a bigger foothold in Fallout 3 than probably in any game that they were in.
Because
I would say that was
whole
like
game running.
Yeah, I think that was the whole shebang.
Yeah, they were the ones that you heard from all the time because you had the propaganda going all over the place, and you had to fight them the whole time.
Well, you had to go to Prezzi's house and go knock on his door, and he took you all the way up and said, "Hi, I'm a computer." And then
I am actually not a person. Yeah. All that talk about apple pies and baseball games. Yeah, I didn't do nothing of that. I didn't do none of that. I'm just a computer.
I'm a little floating ball, look like a Sputnik turned sideways.
Well, but then you meet Arthur Maxon. You meet Arthur Maxon at the Citadel, who is this little kid who is a badass even at that point. And the interesting story there is that he was a product of genetic research. He's not just a normal guy or a normal kid. Like the Brotherhood actually was using some of this quote unquote dangerous technology that they were hoarding from other people. And so he himself is actually a mutant, which most people just don't understand.
It's funny because he hates sense, and it's like,
well, he not only hates sense, he hates so this is kind of the interesting development of the Brotherhood of Steel, is that you In 3, they're the good guys, and then you meet Sarah Lyons, and
Mhm.
everybody loves Sarah Lyons, and she's fantastic. And then she dies like 6 months later and there is a major hint that she didn't die in battle. Like she was probably assassinated and it was probably arranged by Arthur Maxim himself to get rid of her and get her out of the picture. So then you have Arthur,
like his sister.
yeah,
Rude.
who Arthur Maxon is the bad guy. He is. I mean, I make the argument all the time that in Fallout 4, the Brotherhood of Steel out enclave the Enclave. Like they are like,
I agree.
I mean, because they, so in building the Pridwin, they ripped, well, so it's not said exactly, but it sounds like they ripped the nuclear reactor out of Rivet City and used that to power the Pridwin.
The Pridwin, yeah.
And they controlled the capital wasteland. They've got all the military technology that they took from the Enclave when they took the Adams Air Force Base. And then in Fallout 4, they're not good. Like they're there literally to not raid settlements, but they tell you, hey, go extort we need food and stuff, so go get all of this
soldiers
from
to conscript as well.
Yeah.
They're just an invading military.
Yeah, I mean, and in my mind, and this is kind of where we get into speculation, the canonical ending of Fallout 4 should be the Brotherhood ending, because that's the only ending that makes any sense. They have overwhelming military power, they have overwhelming technology. They would stomp all over the Minutemen. The railroad is nothing. I mean, they use Liberty Prime to blow up the Institute. So what you end up with at the end of again, in my mind, a canonical Fallout 4 is the Brotherhood basically controlling the major population centers of the East Coast. They control the capital wasteland, and now they control the Commonwealth. And now they have the ability to build airships and power armor. They are probably, besides the NCR, the largest faction and most powerful faction on North America.
I mean, you're probably right that that's what the canonical ending would be. Although I personally think it should be the Institute, but that's not for today's talk.
Only because that's all you could do.
No, because I think...
Don't you wipe out the Institute with the Brotherhood of Steel?
Yes.
No, we
you
can't.
use Liberty Prime.
Yes, you wipe each other out. But I mean, from a narrative design standpoint, keeping the Institute lets you have a very powerful faction in the game, whereas the Brotherhood's already everywhere. But you're right. It's probably the Brotherhood who would be the canonical ending. It makes sense. They have the firepower, and that's kind of the direction I feel like Bethesda's going with them. Like that's where the end game is that they are going to take over.
Yeah. But I think if they do, and again, this is again complete speculation on my part, is it sets up a very interesting dynamic of the NCR becoming the predominant power on the West Coast, and probably, I would say, eventually west of the Mississippi. The NCR tries to reform the country. Then you have this technocracy, kind of religious order, militant faction in the East, which is the Brotherhood of Steel, almost waging a holy crusade. Because I could see Arthur Maxon saying, we need to wipe out mutants. We need to wipe out ghouls. We need to, everything that the Enclave wanted to do, Arthur's going to do. And he's going to launch his forces across the country. And they're going to start seizing technology. They're going to start wiping out super mutants and ghouls and people that oppose them. And so eventually you're going to get this clash of actually two versions of the old world, which is, the NCR and then the Brotherhood, which is basically the army.
What's the saying? War never changes. Is that what it is?
It doesn't, though, does it?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we were saying when we did our speculative, what was it, 50 years down the road or 100 years or whatever it was we did, and we were
I don't remember the
society,
time frame, but where we were talking about what
we were talking about
would be like.
Society would reform and we'd have government again, and then who knows if we would eventually, there would be wars starting up again, because you would have different factions, and of course everybody would start wanting to
give people enough time to
each
be
other's
bored,
territory.
Fight.
Right. And somebody's always going to pop up who wants more. Well, I'm not satisfied with what I have. I want what he has, or those people should feel the way that we do. So therefore we're going to, invade them and
the same
make them
thing
think
over and
like
over
us.
again. It's funny
just like it is now.
Most of the factions in Fallout are answering the question from a narrative standpoint of what is this group's reaction to the Great War? What's their answer to how are we going to stop that from happening again? And the hilarious part is that every faction you interact with in the game that is trying to answer that question is also trying to kill another faction for basically disagreeing with them. So it's just,
I think
it's just,
Jesus is going to come down
Or
and
never
save everyone.
changes.
yeah. Or
I
never
mean, that's the
changes.
only way.
Hey,
You know?
did any of you
He's going to
guys
come down all, with the sword
Because
tongue.
leaving it to us, we've obviously shown that we can't figure it out.
quick question? Did any of you guys see the sneak peek of the Fallout TV show?
The teaser for yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if it's in Los Angeles, that's
Mhm.
where the NCR would probably be in power. But did we not see
Not
Brotherhood?
it depends on the time
We
frame.
have seen.
That's true.
Because
Right,
it
it's
could be
not
the
the time
time frame of Max
Lost
of Roger
Hills
Maxim
and-
with
yeah.
It could be Lost Hills, exactly. It could be Necropolis,
That's true.
with the ghouls.
Yep, but we have
Yeah.
seen a lot of power armor.
Yep. And one thing I did
Please.
hear is that there are time jumps, so it's not just a linear story. That they do
It
actually
was like I
bounce
was
around.
saying. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I
Yes.
knew. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
people who made
That's
Westworld.
Westworld. I mean, and that's
Westworld.
all they did. All
Yeah.
they did was back
Yeah.
and forth and back and forth. Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna tell the story of the Brotherhood discovering the FEV thing?
Yeah.
Because
If they're
I
going to
feel
go
like that
route.
makes for good TV, but a lot of us are also going to see it coming. So I'm interested to see how they walk that line of keeping the fans in suspense, but also
I
letting
think they'll
newbies see
keep
what's going to
that
happen.
element of the story pretty much the same. I just don't think they'll hold to it once they get past it.
Yeah.
Was that a shot? Did y'all catch? Was that a shot of Walton Goggins as the ghoul?
Yes. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
100% that was.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
I
like,
think they.
"Ooh."
So
There was
what
the back of him, and then he turns around. You're like, oh,
How could you not
yeah.
tell? He looks the exact same. Remember?
I
Yeah,
know,
no,
right?
it's
this
like-
now?
we
it's
talked
totally
about this
him.
before. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I think it's
the bone structure.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it will show pre-war America. So they, I think one of the protagonists, and it could be Grogan's character before he turns into a ghoul, where they show what life was
That'd be
like
good.
before the bombs dropped. Because they do show in that little teaser the bombs going
Yeah.
off.
The bombs going
in
up. Yeah,
California.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you remember the beginning where they had the guy walk up to the door and, hey, I've got this new vault. The guy that was
Yeah,
selling
the
the
vault
vaults.
tech salesman.
Doesn't he
Mhm.
turn into a ghoul into the game? When we
Yeah,
find
in
him
Fallout
He
later?
Roundtable,
does.
Yeah.
That
He
might
does because
be-
he doesn't get a spot. That might be Walton Goggins' character.
No, because that
You
would
know,
be too
I-
short.
No,
But
they're on the East Coast
I
as well.
liked,
No.
and he was on the East Coast, yeah. But I really liked the shot, like the guy hanging out the edge of the vertibird,
Yeah.
and you could just see like the look on his face, like he's terrified. You know,
Well, so the question
I-
is, again, if these are time jumps, is that pre-war? Is that
Right.
post-war? So
yeah,
you
who
really
knows?
don't. So we don't
That
know.
could have been like the Anchorage mission. Even you don't.
it depends
We
on the
don't
power
know.
armor. It
Yeah,
Well,
you didn't get a real good
He
look at
wasn't
it.
wearing power
Yeah.
armor, was he? I thought he
No,
just had
but
on,
when
like,
they walk
regular
out
like
of that-
combat armor. But then you see like the 5 walk.
Yeah,
True.
that's T60 that the big shot with like the
Mhm.
6 or 7
Yeah.
of them. That's definitely T60 armor.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is like you'll know your time frames basically if they stay true to form with the different
If they
power
do.
armors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
Why did
that's
we-
the thing is, I don't know what he's saying.
Well, I think that's so again, this kind of dovetails into who do we think, like if we think about the TV show, it actually should give us a really good indication of what Bethesda has planned for the future for various factions that we find in the game.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because we may actually see, like, will the Brotherhood be the good guys? Will it be, because you see someone coming out of a vault, so maybe we find find out more about Vault-Tec.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, it is interesting, and I think that there is. I mean, I think if we were to take a poll in the community on people's favorite factions, it's going to fall down. Everybody loves the Brotherhood of Steel. Why? Because
Republic of Dave.
Everybody loves Republic of Dave.
Republic and Dave.
I love the Republic of Dave.
Yeah.
I made
But
sure
it's-
I made sure to exile him, and then I watched him get torn apart by a death claw. That was so cool.
Awesome.
Oh my god. I think I just saved him the effort and killed him.
Just tap tap. Bye-bye.
Pretty much.
But
Took me out of that.
I
actually,
think his was more creative, but
well,
I think so.
So here's another question for you, and this kind of gets back to future content. So we know that Atlantic City is coming, which is an area that we've never explored. Do we think that we might actually find maybe we find survivors from Appalachia, maybe from the Brotherhood of Steel, like people that maybe went over there. Do we find maybe part of the Enclave? I mean, do we think that that might play in some regard?
Why not? I mean, there were so many people in the Appalachia area at that time. Why couldn't they have, split out of there before the Scorch got their hands on them?
Well, that was the
And-
thing. Like a
yeah.
lot of people fled because of the scorch plague. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and then but at the same time, there was a lot of people infected.
Right.
It's like, how do you stop the
Ooh.
infection? Because, like, I mean, well, we were talking about in the last episode about the girl going through the swamp, Abby.
Right. Yep.
And
where she
so,
was turning.
well, how many others were there that had the same situation happen? And maybe there's some that didn't turn completely, or they found a way around it. It seems like the more we, delve into this universe, the more this virus or whatever actually has modified and changed, and sometimes humanity wins over the virus. Sometimes.
Didn't Abby turn into a ghoul?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
So the scorch plague, like, is that a virus?
It is, but it is. So it's not airborne.
It's not FEV.
It's only spread by
I didn't think it was airborne.
Yeah, it can only be spread by scorch bees, and the scorch bees themselves can't travel beyond a certain distance from the queen. And since the queen never left, that's why everything stayed localized in inside Appalachia.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to worry about people spreading the scorch plague.
But did we give up? Like, I mean, because we never got to there's no finite element to it, it's just still going.
You got to wait and see.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah. You got to get to Fallout 5.
About 10.
They may not even address it because they may, because how like
if they
Fallout,
break canon, I'm
Fallout
gonna be
4
irritated.
barely referenced 3.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be nice. So... I mean, at the end of the day, if Bethesda wanted to print money, they should remake Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 using the new engine. And then they should make, and then they should make Fallout 5, kind of beyond that. But at the end of the day, they've got, I think, massive potential. I think there's a lot you can do with these characters. I mean, if you look at even the Brotherhood characters, I mean, some of the what's her name? The scribe, is it Ingram, the one that's in the chassis because she lost her legs?
Yeah. Yeah, you ended up putting her back into power armor or something.
Yeah, because she's and then what's funny is that supposedly she lost her legs in the same battle that Sarah Lyons died. Supposedly, as I use my air quotes there.
Air quotes, yeah.
Yeah.
She could be the cause.
Yeah, I do like the head scribe in the Pridwin though, because he collects comic books, because that's like his thing.
Yeah.
And then the doctor that asks if you've had sex with any creatures in the wasteland.
Right. He's like, I have to ask. I'm sorry. It's just, I have to.
I have to ask.
I've had these things happen, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I do think it's
like, what?
Yeah.
I've been asleep. I've been cryogenically frozen for 200 years. Why? When would I have done this?
I kind of wish they had left the ending where you could become the elder of the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You can be
I like the idea of being well, they made you the general in 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made you a general in 3, which I'm like, wait a minute.
Did they?
There was no generals. But they made you a general. No, it was the Commonwealth they made you a general, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, the
Minutemen. You're general the Minutemen.
Yeah, that's what it was. I got it mixed up.
I was gonna say, like in Fallout 4, you have so many like if you actually wore all of your ranks, it would just weigh you down because you're like the General of the Minutemen, you are the Sentinel of the Brotherhood of Steel, you're a spy for the Railroad, and you're a scientist for the Institute. The only faction you couldn't join was the Gunners, and I actually kind of would have liked to have joined the Gunners.
Yeah, why not have that choice? I don't know,
but I like the idea of the multiple playable character. I think that's something that they really should look into. Is like you could have multiple storylines within one grouping. You know what I mean? You could have a super mutant storyline. You could have a ghoul storyline. Maybe you could even start as a Maxon, of the next generation kind of thing, where you go through a storyline as a member of the Maxon family.
See,
Maybe-
that's actually, I
yeah.
like the idea of being able to select your archetype, meaning
Yeah.
you like maybe you start in the Brotherhood of Steel, or maybe you start as a raider, or you start as, rather than somebody coming out of the vault. Because I think that's, I mean,
Been
I'll
done.
say it. It's been done. You have the
It's been
Soul
done.
Survivor, the Lone Wanderer, the Chosen
many
One.
times?
It's like,
Yeah.
how many times can we walk out of a vault?
Okay, if they do make us come out of a vault, though, make it a hilarious one. Just like something crazy. Not like this is a normal.
Yeah, not
vault
a
with
normal
thing.
vault.
Vault
I wanna-
69.
I want to come out
We
with a
want one
puppet
of
on
those
my
Come out
head.
crazy
going,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh,
puppet vault.
actually-
Man.
That would be a great the puppet one is good. But wouldn't it be a good idea if you could okay, you have a vault and you got to choose at the beginning of the game what the experiment was, and it gave your character a particular weird trait that they had to
There
bring
you
with them.
go.
That's
you
a
get
really
like
good
a
idea.
perk.
I think
You
that's
get a
like
cool.
weird perk.
Like you're
from
the
it.
guy that was in the vault with all the women and you came out and you have incredible stamina.
You got or you automatically have the lady killer perk. You come with that.
No. The stamina joke was out of this world. That was great.
That is pretty good.
Congratulations, Jaxus.
Yeah, it's like
Well
so you're
done.
your endurance is
Winner.
maxed.
Yeah,
It's like,
That
hey,
was funny.
well, if you ever played Fallout Shelter, how they got the little workout area,
Yeah.
out there, and then little stamina things
And then,
going up. Yeah.
So you have max endurance and lady killer perk
There you go.
as soon
That's
as
what
you
I
come
wanted.
out the vault.
I want to import my Fallout Shelter save file into Fallout 5. That's what I want.
That would be awesome. God,
Oh,
I
man.
played Fallout Shelter for so long, and then I just kind of got bored of it.
There's
So-
actually a
I
Roger
go-
Maxon kind of
There is.
character thing. It's an Asia exclusive thing or something.
Really?
Yeah, you could
But
actually
you can get
play
his
it.
I think you can get his code or one that looks similar and
Yeah,
put it
I
on
thought
one
that
of your
was cool.
Do I look like a hacker to you?
No. I was going
I
to say
go
there
back
is
in there and check on them once in a while.
Wow.
And they're
Well, you
just
can
plugging
get you
away.
can get the elder. You could have gotten the elder battle coat in Fallout 76.
Yes,
Mm.
actually,
I
a
did,
lot
yeah.
of us have that coat in
Mhm.
as a wearable.
In
item.
your
yeah,
role playing group.
yeah, that's it. That's the word I was looking for.
I still got to
That's
get
pretty-
Autumn. I still have to get Autumn's coat. I'm very disappointed I haven't been able to find that yet.
Ooh,
'Cause
yeah,
that's
that'd be
a
good
code.
one. That's a good
Talk to
one.
Taylor. He's probably got everything.
Oh my god, yes.
Mm.
And he's up to 5,100 now.
My
Oh my
gosh,
goodness.
I think he just broke
5,400 maybe.
I think he broke 4,000 when I stopped playing over there because I don't know. I got too
He
much going
hit
on.
5,000 the last double XP weekend, and now I wouldn't be surprised if he's not already done with the new season.
Yeah,
I was
no.
going to say I'm only 14, 12, 14, something like that. No, 14, 18. That's what I was.
Wow.
And
My-
then and then 1,063 and
And you're
780.
playing on Xbox, right? Or
Yeah.
PlayStation?
Collectively,
We've gotten everybody on PC so
I'm-
far because we're going to be doing a floaty type thing or something.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to
Oh,
do
shoot.
that.
I have to
They're going to
that.
do that actually on the Xbox too. So we're actually going to be part of that.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, we had to figure out a way to get us all in one place because I don't have an Xbox and I'm broke.
and then he also said
Well,
that I
if
had to
you
build it, so
stream
they
it
had to
through
come to
Game
me.
Pass, then we all are on the same platform. You know what I'm
I
saying?
can't build anything on Xbox, so if you want me to build it, you have to come to me.
Ha.
No, if you
I'm not
stream it through Game
rebuying
Pass,
all that crap.
no,
on
if you
Xbox.
Oh my
Xbox.
God. No
no,
way.
if you stream through Xbox, then it counts as console.
No, sir.
Why not?
No, because I can't buy all the
She'd have to-
crap that
she's
I
gotta build the
have
float,
to build
man.
for camp.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Well, guess what?
I have, like,
everyone
not
except
that
Mav
many
has
camp
PC
items.
now, so we're good.
He
Maverick
hasn't
doesn't
even have it
it?
yet.
I thought Maverick had it.
Okay, this is not important to the topic at hand. Let's
Right.
get back on the rails here.
Why not? Really not.
It is
But-
Fallout oriented.
It's true, but
It
it's not
is Fallout
Brotherhood of
oriented,
Steel
and it is
oriented.
upcoming comment.
Unless we
upcoming
can
content.
talk about how the Brotherhood of Steel would
Right.
take people's PCs
Right,
and their
yeah,
builds for what games they would
Oh,
play.
they totally would.
Yeah,
they
but they
totally
don't
would. You're-
have the same technology. Have you seen the games they play on holotapes? It's just you
Have you
run it-
seen their PCs?
Yeah,
They'd be
well,
excited to get our PCs now.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know why I was getting the song from the game in my head now.
So
Which one? Never mind.
oh
Anyway.
yeah. So kind of getting back to the Brotherhood topic in 76. Romani or Shin? Which one did you pick?
Ha ha
Um,
ha.
well, with my main character, I picked Romani. But
Same.
I've played multiple characters
Right,
and
Yes.
right,
I've
right.
gone both
Yeah.
routes, but yeah.
I have 3 characters. I've run through the Brotherhood quest
Brotherhood.
twice because I'm saving the third one for if I want to role play with our the group that we had on.
Mhm.
Sergeant, help me.
I picked
Oh,
Romani.
I know what you're
So,
talking about. Duh.
yeah.
Okay.
My main character went with Romani, the
what's
one
his
who's
name?
actually
Sato?
Enclave.
Sato?
I wasn't gonna try. I did not look stupid, so I just let it go.
See, I'm okay with looking stupid. It just happens
I
naturally
can
for
look
me
it up.
anyway.
I
But
can look it
yeah.
up. So my main character who's actually Enclave went with Romani because she felt like that Romani was the lesser evil and the lesser problem for the Enclave, right? And then my mercenary character, who doesn't pledge allegiance to anybody, went with Shin because she thought he was hot. And so, yeah, she's hanging out with him.
Priorities,
My
right?
my third character will go with Romani because she's a responder and she's going to help people anyway. So she's going to go that way. And she has more free state leanings, which makes her interesting because her sister is Enclave. So there's going to be some
Saga.
interesting tensions.
Well,
Saga.
I'm
Yeah.
very curious because I've heard rumblings that the Free States may be coming back.
Oh, I hope so.
That would be
Because that will really give me, a lot more to write about with because I like you talked about Lawrence when you're talking about stories, and I know this is getting off topic, but when Lawrence was talking about his story and he was like, I know the ending and then I have to get there. That's the way I am with when I write about my girls. Like, I know where I'm going. Like, there's going to be a thing. There's going to be a big conflict coming up where
but you don't
the
know how
two
you're going to
girls,
get there.
I kind of know how I'm going to get there. I just don't know when I'm going to get there, because right now they're kind of fresh out of the vault. Like, I think they're coming up to like maybe a year for Reclamation Day, somewhere around there in their storyline. And she's just kind of getting her feet wet around Appalachia, finding places and getting to the point where Colleen trusts her on her own. So she hasn't quite met the people that she needs to meet to start forming her own beliefs and decisions. But her sister's already neck deep in the Enclave, and she's already become general and everything else. But she just doesn't know all these things yet. But eventually there's going to be a huge rift where they start butting heads because of their beliefs. So
You're gonna have to create a Brotherhood of Steel character.
when I get there.
Well,
so
that's what Mags is kind of reserved for. But she's definitely got free state opinions.
So we are at the end of this for the most part. That's how we know we're getting towards the end. We start rambling, and it was like, oh yeah, well, that Brotherhood of Steel thing. Oh yeah, but remember when that's when we start going. Okay, all right, well, we're winding things down. So
that
when
one
it comes
time
to the Brotherhood of
at
Steel,
Camp
we've kind of figured out that they probably would not be the best to run the world.
the world.
Yeah,
Just
the new world.
They just without a true leadership structure. Now, if you were to run Ginger Reno, if you were the leader of the Brotherhood of Steel, do you think that you using their technology would be able to bring them around with your leadership skills?
With my leadership skill, oh heck yeah, I'm the greatest there is. No,
Logically
honestly,
speaking, like if you were able to twist things and actually maybe possibly sit down at the table with somebody, I mean, how would you go about it?
I mean, if I was with their original vision that they had, or at least part of their vision, I would definitely side more with like Romani and Elder Lyons from Fallout 3, where it's also about helping the people. Because I think in the long run, I think right now in the short term, the Brotherhood of Steel are actually justified in what they're doing, and that what they're doing.
But
is
how would
good.
you implement it is what I mean.
That's
so
the,
like,
well,
yeah. See, that's what
I
I'm trying to
don't know.
say is like, so you've got this high military faction, right? And you have the ability to bring a lot of firepower in any direction. So you got to break from the norms. And the only way to do it. So if I was to take over the Brotherhood of Steel, I think I would have to get involved with somebody like the Commonwealth, or somebody like that and create them a civilian
That would be, I think
government somewhere.
collaboration would be my answer. Like if
Yeah.
I was running Brotherhood, I would recognize what we are strong in and what we are weak in. And the Brotherhood are weak in areas of, I don't want to say infrastructure, but like
Diplomacy.
maybe diplomacy.
God,
But
yes.
when it comes to like like
Foreign.
making a settlement self-sustaining, that's something like the NCR are doing. So I would try to find a way to collaborate and work with other factions like
Yeah,
the NCR
exactly.
or the followers of the apocalypse or other groups who will be good at doing things that make the society better, so they won't make those kind of crappy decisions.
Well, if you
That
think
would
about
be
it, the NCR was able to actually get it to where water was distributed throughout the entire area because they were all set in those areas like free states, above where the water was. There was a big water well thing that the one dude had control of. Well, the NCR had so many different locations throughout that whole map area that if you wanted to, you could use them to distribute the water around through using the caravans, and they could protect it.
Yep. It's clearly something that they're mandating. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that also pushing forward that idea of like working together rather than working against each other, it kind of goes against that motif which caused the Great War in the first place, right? Like it's like these people are
And
not
we're
my
all
enemy.
supposed to be dealing with Americans down
Exactly,
the
right. We're supposed to
beginning.
be one big group of people getting along, and we disagree, but we don't need to fight each other. So that's kind of what I would do. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's too peace and love for the Brotherhood of Steel
Well,
normally.
it's too
So
peace and love for the Fallout
Probably.
universe. They've got to
Yeah,
keep the war
Pretty
going.
much.
that's true. But that's my answer is collaboration amongst
What about
other
you?
people.
What about you, Lawrence? What do you think? If you
So
were in control, what would you do?
so it would be tough, and it would be tough only because they've been set, the Brotherhood have been set in stone for, almost 200, well, yeah, over 200 years of what they were doing. I mean, the best way for them would be actually a combination of what you guys talked about, which would be setting up kind of safe spaces where civilians could be doing their things. Now, of course, over time, eventually we would grant them technology, but really what you would see is the development of an agrarian society with the Brotherhood basically providing the military force to kind of keep people away. I mean, that's really, I think unfortunately it would take multiple generations to change the Brotherhood. You couldn't do it in one. So
No.
you'd almost have to set them on a path
And
ultimately
then pray
kind
it
of go.
stayed that way.
Yeah, I mean, you really wouldn't have much of a choice because it's just, again, once you've ingrained that over 200 years, it's really hard to actually change. I mean, even if you had an elder, because if you had somebody like Lyons come up, like if I became like Elder Lyons, sure, I could change things right now, but I can almost guarantee you that some significant faction or fraction of the Brotherhood would break off and it would be another schism. So I am almost of the opinion that there is no way to actually salvage the Brotherhood as a leadership type faction. I think ultimately they would actually have to be subsumed by something else. So like I could see the NCR ultimately absorbing the Brotherhood in the West because they're a legitimate civilian government. I think in the East you have a really big problem because you've got a very significant faction that has nobody that can really take them on.
I think Valeria should take them all under conscript.
He's right though. They would have to relinquish power at the end of their campaign. Otherwise,
They would.
they just spin their
So-
tires at the end.
What do you think, Sassy?
Well,
You're in
I
control. What would
agree.
you do?
Just the way I always do. I mean, I've been a manager for a long time, and
Pick the attractive
what does a
one.
manager do? A manager delegates. And so you find the people who can do the best things and you delegate and you collaborate. It's a team, right? You just have to figure out what your team is good at and assign those roles and work with the people that are good. Like Gingerino was saying, you got to find the people that are good at the one thing that you're not good at, and then you work with them. You bring them into your team, and you just have to keep working at it that way.
Setting
and everybody
goals
has to
and hold accountability.
Yeah, and everybody has to understand that it's a team, and get them to buy into it is probably going to be the hard part. But when you're looking at an organization like the Brotherhood, do they really they kind of have to buy into you or what you're selling, right? To
Yeah, I
keep their
suppose.
whatever, their job, their place, their vittles, whatever. But I would also subscribe to the Romani track, because I don't want to see people out there suffering, and I want them to take care of themselves. I don't want them dependent on me. So I would
because I don't want them coming
settlements.
to me to ask questions.
Right. I want them to be able to take care of themselves, so I can go about doing what I need to do to get the rest of the country going.
And if the Brotherhood
that's
doesn't take
part of
care
it.
of the people, then once people become self-sustaining, they're now going to have to play dictators to regulate technology for the foreseeable future. Forever. Until
Yeah.
Well, and if they can't take care of themselves and you can't take care of them because you just whatever, what is the point of even,
because you're a
what is
stupid
their
poopy head.
purpose? Like, everybody's gonna die in the end then. So what's the whole idea? Like, there's no point in any of it. If
We'll
you're
just
not
become
helping people
plants and we'll
survive and
regrow and
be sustainable, exactly, everything's gonna just die out and then forget about it. There was no point. The great experiment is over.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that thing Lawrence said about like the NCR becoming the power in the West and the Brotherhood becoming the power in the East, and like this big massive. I wonder if that's the direction Bethesda's taking these overarching narratives, because
you never know, dude.
that would
I don't
be
know,
that would
though.
be pretty
Well,
cool.
you think it would be an accumulation of all these different things that they've done over many, many years to have this great, like, full United States kind of thing happen, where you got the whole map now. That would be intense.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
instead
It
of
would
worrying
be.
about whether or not it's going to be New Orleans or Florida or whatever, it's like, no, it's the
God.
US. We're going to do it all, the
Damn.
whole thing.
That's one
And
big
that would be
map.
massive. And I think that would be actually probably a really good way to go.
And that's
Well,
the
it gives
the
you
end
lots of
game.
places for expeditions.
Yeah.
That's the end game of it. NCR
could be
versus
done.
Brotherhood.
I was
If
going to
you can
say
have
my
if you can have 1,000 planets, why can't you just do 50 some odd states?
That is a good point. That's a
Well,
good point. But they'd have to
there is-
change engines.
yeah. Well, there is a Fallout mod for Hearts of Iron 4, and my kids play it all the time. They
Mhm.
love having the Enclave just take over the whole country. So that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tactics is one of my son's favorites. He likes the Brotherhood.
Anyway, folks, I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. I hope you enjoyed our, some of our ramblings and goofing off. We try to mix that in there just to get a little relief from, beating up a subject too much. But I hope you enjoyed yourselves and have a great night. Everybody say good night.
all right.
Night.
Bye. Good night.
Really? You had to do that,
Good
right?
night.
Okay.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.